Camila Ramiro's life had been nothing but a routine stitched together with quiet pain and silent strength. Every morning at 5, she would wake to the faint sound of church bells, open her small café on the corner of Calle Rosario, and serve the same people who never really looked her in the eye. Her world was small, safe, and predictable until the day Alejandro Briones walked in. He wasn't from her town. That much was clear from the moment he entered with his long coat, sharp jawline, and that gaze that seemed to read every story written behind her tired smile. He ordered a black coffee with 2 sugars and sat by the window, watching her. For weeks, he came back, same table, same order, but every time, his eyes told her something new, like he saw the person she had once been before life broke her spirit. Camila had forgotten what it felt like to be noticed, to be seen not for what she served, but for who she was. The truth was, she hadn't believed in love since Rodrigo, the man who had promised her forever but left her at the altar 5 years ago. That day had destroyed something inside her, something no one could ever fix, or so she thought. But Alejandro's presence was different. He never asked for more than her company, yet his silence carried comfort. One rainy afternoon, when the power went out and the cafe filled with candlelight, he finally spoke about the past he'd been running from, a betrayal that mirrored hers. He told her how he'd watched her once from across that same church years ago, the day her wedding fell apart, and how her strength had inspired him when he had none left. It was then Camila realized this man wasn't a stranger. He had been a silent witness to her pain, and somehow, fate had brought him back to heal what was once broken. Days turned into weeks, and laughter returned to her life, first as whispers, then as music. They would walk by the river, sharing stories of who they used to be, and she began to understand that love wasn't always loud. It was gentle, patient, and kind, like Alejandro. He started fixing little things around her cafe, the broken clock, the loose chairs, even the flickering neon sign, and each act made her heart softer. For the first time in years, Camila began to dream again. But love, as always, tests what it builds. One afternoon, Rodrigo walked into the cafe. The air froze. His eyes held regret, but his words carried arrogance. He wanted her back, not out of love, but pride. Alejandro stood beside her quietly, his hand brushing hers under the counter, grounding her with that unspoken assurance that she wasn't alone anymore. Camila looked Rodrigo in the eye and said words she had once been too afraid to speak. "You left me when I was broken. Don't come back now that I've learned to stand." And in that moment, the girl who once begged for love became the woman who chose respect. The cafe, once filled with ghosts of her past, now felt alive with her courage. Alejandro smiled softly, and when she turned to look at him, she saw her reflection in his eyes. Not as the heartbroken bride she once was, but as a woman reborn through fire. As days passed, the world around them seemed to heal too. The cafe flourished. People returned not for coffee, but for the warmth they found there, and Alejandro's art, paintings inspired by her strength, started getting recognition online. One of his pieces went viral, a woman standing in a storm, holding her heart in her hands, smiling at the sky. The caption read, "She didn't wait to be saved, she learned to save herself." That post spread across the internet like wildfire, and suddenly, people everywhere began sharing Camila's story without even knowing her name. It became a symbol of hope, resilience, and rebirth. One evening, Alejandro took her to the same church where everything had once fallen apart. But this time, it wasn't for an ending, it was for a promise. He didn't bring flowers, he didn't kneel, he just looked into her eyes and said, "I don't want to marry the woman you were. I want to walk beside the woman you've become." Tears fell freely, and for the first time, they weren't born of pain, but of peace. As they stood under the fading light of the stained glass windows, Camila realized that love had never left her. It had just been waiting for her to return to herself. And as the night embraced them, the city lights outside flickered like stars, and somewhere in the hum of the streets, you could almost hear the echo of destiny whispering. Sometimes the most beautiful love stories are not about finding someone new, but about rediscovering yourself in the presence of someone who finally sees you.